If you're going into public accounting, everyone's going to tell you about busy season. They'll say it's brutal, they'll say it's a rite of passage, and then they'll change the subject. What they usually skip is what it actually looks like, day to day, week to week, at the associate level. Not the version that gets posted on LinkedIn where someone talks about how much they grew, the actual version. That's what this video is. Busy season isn't one thing. It depends on what service line you're in. In tax, the core window is January through April. The individual filing deadline in April drives the whole calendar. Everything gets scheduled backward from that date. In audit, the busy window is similar. January through March is where most of it lives. But if your clients have December fiscal year ends, which most large companies do, you're starting earlier than that. December fieldwork is real. So the busy season starts in January framing is already slightly optimistic. Either way, the underlying dynamic is the same. A large portion of the year's client work gets compressed into a few months. Clients have filing deadlines, board deadlines, regulatory deadlines. The work doesn't spread itself out evenly across the year just because that would be more convenient. So it stacks. That compression is where the hours come from. And it's also why there's no real way to fully prepare for the volume until you're in it. One more thing worth saying up front. Busy season isn't the same everywhere. Firm size, office culture, the clients on your portfolio, and even which team you land on within a firm can all move the experience meaningfully. What you'll hear in this video is a realistic picture of what it looks like at the associate level. Not a worst case scenario, not a best case scenario. The number you'll hear most is 55 to 70 hours per week. That range is real, and it's probably accurate on average at the associate level. But averages can be misleading when the distribution is this wide. There are weeks that stay closer to 55. There are weeks that push well past 70. A lot of it depends on factors you don't fully control. Which clients you're on, how organized those clients are, whether your seniors and managers are on top of things, and whether anything unexpected surfaces during fieldwork. And something unexpected usually surfaces during fieldwork. The other thing people don't always say clearly. Hourly expectations vary by firm and by office within a firm. Some groups are known for being heavier. Some partners run tighter ships than others. If you're still in the recruiting process, it's worth asking associates directly what their experience was. Not partners, not recruiters, associates. The honest way to frame it? Plan for 60 hours as your baseline assumption. Expect variance in both directions, and don't count on the lighter weeks arriving at the moments you need them to. Budget your personal commitments accordingly going into the season. On a heavy busy season week, the structure of your day changes pretty significantly compared to what a normal week looks like. You're starting earlier than usual. Not dramatically, maybe 7:30 or 8 instead of 8:30, but the days are longer on both ends. You're finishing later. Depending on where you are in an engagement, finishing might mean leaving the office or client site at 7 p.m., getting home, and then checking email again at 9 because something came in. That's a real pattern and not an unusual one. Weekends get pulled in at some point during the season. Not necessarily every weekend, and not necessarily full days, but expecting both Saturday and Sunday to be completely untouched during peak busy season is probably not a realistic expectation at most firms. It varies by team, but plan for at least some weekend work to show up. The other thing that happens is the work-life boundary gets blurry in ways that are harder to define. It's not just the hours, it's that your mental bandwidth is more consumed than usual. You might be at dinner with someone, but still running through a testing list in your head. That kind of spillover isn't unique to public accounting, but it's more pronounced during this stretch. The hours are the part everyone talks about. The part most people skip is the mental and social side of a sustained busy season. After 3 or 4 weeks of elevated hours and consistent pressure, the fatigue isn't really physical anymore. You're sitting at a desk, but your ability to concentrate degrades. Things that should take 20 minutes start taking 45. Small decisions, things that shouldn't require much thought, start feeling heavier than they should. That cognitive load accumulates in a way that catches people off guard. Your social life gets quiet. Not because you made a deliberate choice to cut people off, but because there's no time and the energy isn't there. Plans get canceled. You stop making plans in advance because your schedule is unpredictable and you've already bailed twice. The relationships that hold up are usually the ones where the other person either understands what you're going through or is going through the same thing. The pressure dynamic is also different than people expect. It's mostly internal. Nobody's typically standing over your shoulder, reminding you of the deadline every hour. But everyone on the engagement is aware of the timeline. Everyone's output connects to everyone else's, and that awareness creates its own low-level pressure that's always running in the background. If you're someone who internalizes work stress, that part is worth knowing about going in. There's no shortage of productivity advice for surviving busy season. Meal prep, protect your sleep, set boundaries, don't skip the gym. None of that is wrong, but it's also not really what gets most people through it. What actually helps is that you adapt. The first 2 to 3 weeks are usually the hardest. You're adjusting to a new pace, you haven't built a rhythm yet, and everything feels heavier than it will later. Most people find that after that initial adjustment period, the season becomes more manageable. Not easy, but functional. Your tolerance for the hours builds faster than you'd expect. Your team is the single biggest variable in how your experience goes. A team with decent communication, where seniors and managers are accessible and not creating unnecessary chaos, makes the hours tolerable. A dysfunctional team makes the same hours feel significantly worse. You don't fully control who you're staffed with, but it's worth paying attention to team culture during recruiting. It matters more than most candidates realize. And practically speaking, the season ends. That sounds obvious, but when you're 4 weeks into a heavy stretch, having a concrete date that you're working toward matters. Most people find that just knowing there's a finish line and being able to see it getting closer is one of the more underrated parts of getting through it. Is it worth it? That's the real question, and the honest answer is, it depends on what you're measuring it against. The experience you accumulate during busy season is legitimate. You're exposed to more client situations, more review processes, more real-world accounting and audit work in a few months than most roles would give you in a full year. It's one of the reasons people with Big Four experience tend to have an easier time moving into industry or more specialized roles later. The volume of work you see early on is hard to replicate anywhere else. The resume carries that. But if you go in expecting it to be fine because everyone around you survived it and came out okay, you might be setting yourself up for a harder adjustment than necessary. Survivable and smooth are not the same thing. Most people make it through. Most people also find the first one harder than they expected, even when they thought they were prepared. Go in with accurate expectations. Know what's coming. Build in some flexibility in your personal life during that window. And don't measure your experience against people who are only sharing the highlight reel of what busy season looked like for them. That's the honest version of what busy season looks like. If you're heading into your first one, or still figuring out whether public accounting is the right path, I've got more videos covering what the day-to-day actually looks like at different levels. Links are below. Subscribe if this was useful.